Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm here today sharing a bunch of cards with you actually, featuring Prima's Watercolor Confections paints and a variety of products from Simon Says Stamp. Now today's post is in celebration of Random Acts of Kindness Day. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this day, it's basically just promoting doing something really kind for someone in your life, or maybe someone you don't even know, and just kind of do something fun and unexpected. And I think these cards are a great way to kind of do that and give a really fun and unexpected card to somebody that really just brightens their day, because who wouldn't love a card that has bright colorful rainbows all over it? So with these cards, I'm going to be using, like I said, the Prima Watercolor Confections. Now I stepped up my watercoloring a bit by first prepping my water with some perfect pearls, and this is going to basically allow me to create a shimmery watercolor as I'm painting, so I don't have to worry about spraying these. I'm already getting the shimmer on the paper as I'm painting. Now I've just had fun, and I played with my watercolors and just really created a bunch of fun backgrounds. And this is what I love to do with my products, whether it's watercolors, inks, or other types of mediums. I just like playing around and coming up with some fun designs that I can do with the same product and make it look completely different. And I really did that with these cards. I created a variety of different backgrounds, different types of ways of adding the paint onto the paper. I did stripes. On some of the panels I covered it completely. On others I left some white areas, and then even in that first panel that you saw there, I didn't even go all the way to the edge of the paper. So I just really played around and kind of created some really fun backgrounds to help me get some really cool things that I will be able to turn into cards then. Now these watercolor confections are actually a set of 3 here. I have them mixed together and blended into 2 tins, so basically it saves space and it allows me to have all my colors in one spot and not having to worry about having multiple tins out. I just need 2. Now I also mentioned that there are a couple of other new Prima watercolor confection sets which I don't have, but I am looking forward to getting. So keep that in mind. If whatever your colors you're looking for, I definitely want to encourage you to check out what other kinds of watercolor confections that Prima has. Not only the ones that I'm using and have in my video here, but also all the ones that are available that I'm not using. The color palettes that I have here are the Decadent Pies, which I did not use any of the colors from, but I also had the Tropicals and the Classics in these palettes. So like I said, I've had a ton of fun and just went crazy with creating some fun backgrounds. You can see there's a variety of different styles, and they all have that great shimmer on them because we added the shimmer to the water before we did our painting. Now I also did add a bit of water splattering to my panels, but because these aren't quite as reactive as like a distress ink, they don't react quite as much, and that's okay. I was prepared for that to not happen. But I did want to mention that in case you were looking for it to react with the water that I added for the water splatters, that's not going to do that. Now for some interest though, I am adding some shimmer spritz, and this is the sparkle color, and I just flicked that all over this background to create some really fun splattery dots all over the background. And I did that on a few of the cards. I didn't do it on all of them, but I was just really, like I said, playing around and coming up with different ways on using my watercolors to create some fun designs. So I wanted to use a variety of different Simon Says Stamp products that I've been wanting to use in my cards. This die set here is the Heart of Flowers dies, and it's this really large die that cuts all these flowers in the shape of a heart. This is really fun, so I'm going to go ahead and die cut this from this ombre teal pattern that I had created. Once I've die cut it, I'm going to be very careful as I remove this because I actually want to save all those negative pieces. Now you don't have to, but I'm saving the negative pieces because A, they're colored, so they look really pretty, but it's going to allow me to create extra cards because I'm going to be able to use those little die cut pieces to attach onto a card. And I'll get to that in a minute. But here I'm using the panel where we die cut those flowers into the panel, and we have now this really cool negative effect. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this entire panel up onto a white card base. And I used white card bases on all my cards, and this is just because that's one of my favorite card bases to use. You can use any types of card bases you want for this technique. Now here's where I'm taking those positive pieces, and I'm going to be using a negative that I've die cut from some scrap paper, and I'm going to basically use this as a guide for placing those positive pieces back into place. This guide that I'm using here, I'm going to end up getting rid of. It's just basically helping me know where all of these pieces should go. And I'm just going to puzzle piece these back together and create these really cool designs onto a card. It makes a really nice, clean and simple card, but it looks stunning because we not only have that beautiful watercoloring that creates a lot of interest, we have the shimmer, and it's this big element on a white card base. It just literally pops right off the card. And you'll see that in a second here as I go ahead and remove that scrap paper, that great heart design that we have on this card. And you can see how shimmery these watercolors are. This was so much fun to create these, and I love that I was able to use those pieces that normally I would have thrown out. I was able to use them on a card to create an extra card that I can now give to somebody else. So I'll go ahead and repeat that for the teal card. I made sure I was careful as I was applying those negative pieces from the teal card, more so than when I had applied them onto the pink card, because the teal card had an ombre, and I wanted that to reflect on those positive pieces I was puzzle piecing back together. So here I'm now taking some word dies, and this is the You Make My Heart Smile die. This was also from Simon Says Stamp, and I had die cut this entire sentiment from 2 pieces of white cardstock. So I layered those 2 pieces together to create a slightly thicker sentiment, and I covered them with Simon Says Stamp's clear embossing ink, and then sprinkled some Tonic Studios Nouveau Sparkle embossing powder on top of that wet ink that I had applied onto the sentiment. Now with that sentiment, I'm going to now be able to take those pieces, which I have now melted the embossing powder onto, and I can attach these onto my card. So this gives me a really gorgeous, glittery sentiment that's a little bit more dimensional than if I had stamped it onto my card. So it creates a nice bit of interest to my card and really just makes these sentiments pop. I used some PPA matte adhesive to adhere all of my elements onto my cards today. PPA matte adhesive is just a simple liquid adhesive. It dries matte so you never see it, and it is clear. It's very comparable to multi-matte medium for those of you that aren't familiar with this glue. I used that same technique of creating the glittery embossed sentiments by using a couple of different dies from Simon Says Stamp. This is from the You Matter die set. That Kindness is the Painted Kindness die. And then again we have that You Make My Heart Smile die. Now there's a matching stamp set for the You Matter die, so I'm going to take actually that large U from that You Matter stamp set, and I'm going to ink it up with some VersaFine Black Onyx ink. Now because this is on watercolor paper, I wasn't getting a perfect impression, and that's okay. I'd stamped it a couple times to try to get as clear of an impression as I could. And then for the parts that I wasn't able to get a crisp, clean impression, I'm just taking a Prismacolor black pen, and I'm going to go over top of those areas with that pen just to darken them up and fill in any spots that didn't get covered with the ink. I went ahead and sprinkled some of that same glitter embossing powder from Nouveau on top of that VersaFine ink. VersaFine ink is a pigment ink, so it stays sticky and wet longer than a normal dye ink would. So I'm able to apply the embossing powder over top of that and heat set this. And this is actually one of my favorite ways to create a black heat embossed image, is because I won't end up having the speckles of black all over the place, which is quite common with black embossing powder. So by applying a clear embossing powder over top of black ink, that allows me to create that same effect, but a much, much cleaner appearance. Now for the rest of these cards, I want to go ahead and add some supporting sentiments to these cards. So I'm using a couple of different sentiments from mostly the You Matter stamp set, but I'm also using a few from the Love Sentiment stamp set from Simon Says Stamp as well. I heat embossed them all with white embossing powder, and I put them onto different colors of Simon Says Stamp cardstock. This one here is dull pink, and I trimmed all of these into little labels, basically. They kind of look like those little label maker type of labels, except they're in colors, so I think that's pretty. And I think the simplicity of it really just makes this whole card look fantastic. So I'll go ahead and pop this up off of my card with some foam tape. Most of the label sentiments I added with foam tape, and then I also added some heart embellishments to some of these cards as well, using the Holiday Shapes dies from Simon Says Stamp, and I just used some red cardstock to go ahead and create those little hearts, which I then covered with some glossy accents, just to give them a little bit of shine and interest. So these cards turned out absolutely wonderful, and I love how bright, happy, and colorful they are, perfect for giving to anybody that you want to send some smiles to or give a gift. This would also be perfect for sticking a little gift card into these cards as well. You could also turn these backgrounds that we created into other things. You could have turned them into tags, you could have die cut shapes from these watercolor backgrounds and then added the shapes onto your card instead of using the full background. A variety of different options are available to you when creating backgrounds like this. You can do a variety of different things. So keep that in mind. You don't have to go ahead and create cards like I did here. You can do something completely different and create some really fun projects. So I hope this has inspired you to create something fun for somebody today. Please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and you can find us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as our blog. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye!